Chapter 6 of Feanor and the Unchaining of Melkor. Now the three kindreds of the Eldar were gathered at last in Valinor, and Melkor was chained. This was the noontide of the blessed realm, the fullness of its glory and its bliss, long in tale of years, but in memory too brief. Just to give you an idea of the meaning of those last couple phrases, go to tolkiengateway.net and go to the timeline section. You see the different stages in the history of Arda? Right now in the story, we are in what are called the Years of the Trees. In this world, things usually take a long time to happen, so I'll just give you an example of that. Starting from when the elves followed the summons and began their journey west from Cuivienen, it took the Vanyar and Noldor 268 years to reach Aman. And they were already hanging out with the Valar in the Undying Lands for 173 years before the Teleri finally made it there. So there is definitely no rush when you live forever. And now we are finally introduced to Feanor. He is born in the city of Tirion to Finwe and Miriel. Guru Finwe was his name, but by his mother he was called Feanor, Spirit of Fire. In elf culture, everyone gets a name from their father and a name from their mother. The father's name is always given at birth, whereas the mother's name is given a little later and is often based on the child's personality or on a prophetic vision. So Feanor's father name, Guru Finwe, means skillful son of Finwe. But his mother name, Feanor, Spirit of Fire, is very apt. It's a good description of who he is and how his essential personality comes across in all of his actions. And after Miriel gives birth to him, she becomes weary and exhausted because all of her energy, all of her life force goes into her son. It's like Feanor is so intense that he's drained her of all of her vitality. And Finwe is very upset by this and asks Manwe for help. So Manwe sends her to the gardens of Lorien, because remember, that's the place of healing and rest for everyone in the Undying Lands. But even in the gardens, she's still tired of living. So one day, she lies down and dies. Her spirit departs to the halls of Mandos. Her body is still being taken care of because it doesn't decay, and Finwe visits it often. He's grief-stricken and becomes deeply depressed. But he eventually does stop visiting, probably because it becomes too sad for him. And meanwhile, Feanor grows up. He becomes the most subtle in mind and the most skilled in hand. He has an incredibly strong personality. When he does something, he intensely focuses on it with all of his mind. But he's also stubborn and strong-willed. Seldom are the hands and mind of Feanor at rest. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He just can't stop. He creates new kinds of gems and other crystals he made also, wherein things far away could be seen small but clear, as with the eyes of the eagles of Manwe. I'm gonna take a guess and say this line is referring to the Palantir, the seeing stones. Remember we see them in the Lord of the Rings movies a couple times? I'm pretty sure Feanor's the one who made those exact ones. Pretty cool, huh? So Feanor then marries Nerdanel, the daughter of a great smith. Nerdanel is also strong-willed, but she's more patient than her husband, desiring to understand minds rather than to master them. They become estranged after a while when he makes some very bad decisions that we will read about later. It's important to note that she passes on her more level-headed personality to some of her sons, but not all of them. Finwe eventually remarries. His new wife is called Indis. She is not of the Noldor like Miriel was, but rather of the Vanyar. And Feanor does not like his stepmother. And when his two half-brothers, Fingolfin and Finarfin, are born, he doesn't like them either. In fact, he lives apart from them, and busies himself with his work and with exploring Aman. He really doesn't want to have anything to do with them. But this friction in the House of Finwë is going to cause some serious problems down the road. And oh yeah, by the way, Melkor's prison sentence is up. How time flies when you've been chained up all alone in Mandos for almost 3,000 years. When he gets out and sees the elves and how beautiful Valinor looks, it just makes him envious, greedy, and even more hateful, if that's possible. But on the surface, he promises to be good, and Manwë believes him because he has no comprehension of evil and he's too forgiving. So Melkor is allowed to live among everyone like he's normal or something, and he is on his best behavior. Ulmo, of course, isn't having any of it, and Tulkas still hates him, but they have to follow what Manwë decrees. Melkor hates the elves most of all, because of all the long list of things he hates, right? Stars, the ocean, all the other, everyone else, basically. He hates them because they're happy, and he blames them for the Valar raining on his parade of destruction. So he tries to ingratiate himself with them and pretend to be their friend. The Vanyar do not like him, so he doesn't even bother going near him. And he thinks the Teleri are worthless, so he doesn't bother with them either. But the Noldor love knowledge and improving their skills. So he sets his sights on teaching and then corrupting them. And he lies, telling people that he's the one who instructed Feanor in his greatest achievements. But in fact, Feanor hates Melkor. Feanor never, ever asks Melkor for counsel or advice because he's too fiercely independent. Feanor has always preferred to work alone in his genius. He never would have had anything to do with Melkor anyway. So, there you go, another one of Melkor's lies. All the skill that Feanor has comes from within his own fiery soul. And he's also extremely proud, and he's never asked anyone for advice. Except his wife. But that doesn't last very long. His pride will be his downfall.